Hi, welcome to my demos on bringing DevOps to the database. This is the third video in the series on releases. In the previous videos, we looked at version control and continuous integration. In this one, we'll actually look at the release process. As a reminder, we actually wrote code in this database. It's here. We've actually sent it here as part of the CI process when it was successful. And the goal is to get it to all of these other databases ending in this production one without actually running the code. So as an example here, here's the first development database. You can see I've added this South Florida one. I have a table and a stored procedure that I've run. As I said, in continuous integration, we actually completed our continuous integration and we have this in the integration environment. But in QA, this doesn't work. We don't have the South Florida item, and these two items don't exist. They also don't exist in staging, and they don't exist in production. So the goal is to get into all three of those areas. Now, we don't want to do it for Management Studio. Certainly we could take the code there. What we really want to do is take it from here. Now, last week I ran this, June 5th was a few days ago, and then Azure DevOps actually broke on June 5th for releases. They had some issues, and I didn't have a chance to record it before I went out of town. So you can see that we had a failure. This was the test that failed for the primary key. And then we completed 1309, this run. And now we want to do a release. So if I come over to the release area, what I can do is create a new release. And when I do this, you'll see that there's that 1309. It's going to pick the latest version of this. I could pick other versions, but it's picking the latest version by default. I'm just going to create that release. And you'll notice it says it's been queued. And you can see here now it started to deploy for QA. If I come into here and we look at this, you can see that I picked up the artifact from the CI process, in this case, the 1309 CI process. I manually triggered this release. I could configure all this differently, but in this case, it's now deploying or performing a create and deploy to QA. Then I go to staging production, and it actually won't go to Azure. Azure will fail because the serverless item is not alive. But if I were to look at what this looks like and I hit edit, you'll see that I've got a similar thing here where I'm saying I'm picking up the artifact and I'm going through this flow. If I were to look at QA, you can see I have a couple stages. So one is I'll actually perform a create here of a package. I'll look at the database package from CI, then I'll export this out there, and then I'll actually deploy this. And that's what's running right now. So if I were to come back here and look at this and look at the logs, you can see that it downloaded the artifact here from the last place was that NuGet package. Then it's performing the create, or sorry, here's the next artifact. Now it's performing the create in this case, which is, this is just really a PowerShell call. And then it'll perform the deploy, and then hopefully everything will be working. Now this can take a couple of minutes to actually run this. You can see, hey, new database connection, there's the export path. These are all the parameters that I set in my release that I built. And I really did the same thing that I would do manually. In this case, I could call this PowerShell and this PowerShell, and I could just run these different items manually. Certainly, I could download it manually and then look at the code and run that as well. But the goal in DevOps is that I want this thing to be automatic. So if we were to look here at my release pipeline, you can see that across time, right? I've had these deployments work. This one failed and I reran it. And of course, nothing deployed here, but this one worked because the serverless database was still alive. Here I only deployed to 2 places. Here I've actually deployed to 3. And now we're in the process of deploying here to our next one. And so once this is done, hopefully it is complete now. You'll see it's in the staging area. I'm going to approve this because I have a manual gate here. I didn't actually look at anything, but we'll just say approve. And this will actually run now by itself. And then it'll actually run to production automatically. I don't have gates on those. But if we come back here and we are in the QA environment, and I now run this, this works because the code has been automatically deployed. Now it's still not here because that is still running, but that'll run in a few minutes. How long did this take? If we look through here. So 2 minutes, 10 seconds to do that deployment. I assume this will be kind of similar. And then once this is done, we'll have our code moved everywhere that we need it to move. And so again, if I were to actually look at this release and what's going on, you can see that I've linked to 1309, which was my CI, where I've merged in that PR. Okay, and you can see I still have linked here to all the tests and things that are going on. And this is actually linked to a work item. And so this was the live demo that I had in my board here. And so if you look, you'll see in the development area, I've got all of this development work that's here. Related work is my parent work item there. So I can follow through at every stage what's actually happened, what deployments have occurred, what commits have occurred, and then understand my entire software system. That's one of the reasons I do like Azure DevOps, because it consolidates not only the releases, but it consolidates the CI process, the boards for tracking work, the repositories for code, and everything else. And so we can see this working. As a matter of fact, let's come into boards because this is deployed. And this was the live demo. So if I were to come in here, I'm actually going to mark that as complete now. And we can move this over here because this is in fact done. If we come into staging, this now works. And momentarily, it'll actually work in production as soon as that thing is deployed. And let's just see that. Usually I continue on and I talk about rollbacks and other issues when I'm doing this live. But I'm not doing that live. We're not doing the presentation here. We're just doing the demo. And so it's deployed everywhere else. So hopefully this is giving you an idea of how the DevOps process works. And please, if you have any questions, reach out and ask me. Thank you. I'm Steve Jones for Redgate Software, SQL Server Central.